author of the new book Daybreak and co-founder of AfterDowningStreet.org, David Swanson.
Thank you very, very much. Absolutely wonderful, incredibly encouraging. Thank you to Richard and to Rational Radio for putting this together, and to a woman named Leslie Harris for bringing me down here today for a day of events. We went this morning to George W. Bush's neighborhood to see what he was up to. And we had a little demonstration demanding that he answer to his crimes. And overwhelmingly, more of the people driving by and walking by were positive and supportive of what we were doing. A handful were against us. This in the supposed belly of the beast in Dallas, Texas. Thom Hartmann was out there with us this morning, gave me a copy of the Wall Street Journal. Somebody took a picture of me, made it look like I read the Wall Street Journal. But I read an editorial that said, "Hooray for Barack Obama. His support for the Patriot Act, his support for all of the abuses, he is continuing the war on terror admirably." Not my opinion, the Wall Street Journal's opinion. And in fact, the illegal wars are ongoing, expanding, not retracting. More people in Iraq, just more of them mercenaries, more people in Afghanistan, going from bad to worse. And the torture is ongoing, and the power to commit these crimes is fixed in place, and the detentions and the rendition. And why? Because we're looking forward. Because we're doing this thing like we're in a Tom Cruise movie where we can see future crimes, and we're only going to prosecute the future crimes. No, crimes are in the past. If you're going to enforce laws, you're going to prosecute crimes that are in the past. What would make a difference here? Why has nothing changed? What would make a difference would be to have George W. Bush sitting behind bars. Not for revenge, not because we don't like him, not because we support the death penalty. That is the kind of thinking that allows people like him to take us into wars on the basis of lies. We got to get that thinking out of us. But because we need him doing what this soldier this week was doing, who was responsible for a My Lai massacre years and years ago, and publicly apologizing and expressing remorse and misery. We need George W. Bush doing that for the world, for the coming decades. We need that expression. Yesterday, 7 former directors of the CIA sent a letter to Barack Obama that said, don't allow any investigation, right? I mean, already we're talking about an administration that launched an illegal war with over 1 million dead bodies, right? Dealing with torture is like getting Al Capone on tax fraud, but we have to do it. And yet, when this sort of thing is done in South America, in Africa, the United States corporate media denounces it as allowing immunity for rulers, abusing the idea of the rule of law. They're going to be prosecuted. And that means that we pressure the Justice Department directly and through the media more than before to expand a prosecution that, if it goes forward as designed, will be worse than nothing. This is a prosecution that will establish that any president can tell a lawyer to write a secret memo making any crime legal, and it will be legal. Right? They're going to go after the people who strayed from the secret illegal policies. We have to pressure them to expand it. We have to work on state and local cases that are pressuring them to expand it, on civil suits that are in fact moving forward encouragingly. We have to push Congress to actually represent us on this. We have to be willing to take some risks, to act locally, to act nationally. If a relatively small number of people blocked every entrance and every exit to the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. until it enforced our laws, it would enforce our laws. So I look at in my book how we can get better organized, more independent of corrupting forces, how we can act more strategically, but also what we have to do in the long term in terms of repealing laws and passing laws and fixing rules and amending constitutions. But all of it's meaningless unless our laws are enforced. It has to come first. And we have to stop thinking that elections by themselves mean anything at all. Anything at all. I heard a very intelligent person whose work I admire today up here on this stage say something about the most important presidential election of my lifetime. I hate to break it to you. Every single presidential election is marketed as the most important presidential election of your lifetime. So will the next one be. It ain't. They aren't important. What is important is what you begin to do the day after the elections.
Yeah.
And if we have any hope at all, it comes through Congress. Sad and corrupted and miserable as Congress may be, you cannot lobby someone who can ignore whole regions of the country 4 years from now, who's taken a dozen times the money of any senator, who's a focus of the corrupting corporate media day and night, every minute on end, who has something called the Secret Service if you try to go up and talk to him. But your Congress member can be tracked down. You can speak to him or her face to face. You can put up primary challenges against them. You can attack them and praise them and threaten them in the local media very easily. You can make your own media. You can use outstanding media like Rational Radio to address them. And you can move them very, very easily. We need to be thinking of these people as representing their constituents and not their party leadership. It is very tempting to say, geez, if the Democrats had more discipline, then they could at least pass some sort of halfway healthcare reform. If the Democratic Party had any discipline, there would be absolutely zero opposition to wars in the United States Congress. There would be absolutely zero support for the majority position in this country on almost any issue, because it is opposed by the leadership of the Democratic Party. Not as badly as by the leadership of the Republican Party, but as Cindy Sheehan said, she's got a corn on her foot that's better than Bush. We gotta set a little bit higher standards. We need a Congress that represents us, and we need a Congress that wants to have power. It doesn't want any power. It wants to give all of its power to the guy who's supposed to execute its will as its servant. That was the arrangement in the Constitution.